Hello and welcome to this edition of Grammar Tuesday on a topic, yes, you've guessed it, speech marks. The clue is on the screen there, isn't it? So the strange thing about speech marks is you can use either single or double inverted commas to show that someone is talking. Now I like to use double inverted commas because single inverted commas are also quotation marks. So I kind of think let's keep the two separate. But a lot of books these days do use the single inverted comma, probably because when a book is very dialogue heavy, when it's got a lot of talking in it, they don't want it to sort of look too cluttered in terms of the punctuation. So there are a few rules to think about when we're talking about speech marks. And here is an example when the speaker is first and the speech is second. So here are three examples on the screen. She asked, "Would you like some dinner?" He replied, "Great, thanks." She said, "Then you can take me to a restaurant." So in this example, or this set of examples, there are three rules. You use a comma before the opening speech marks. The first letter of the speech should be a capital letter, and you put a full stop or other punctuation mark inside the final speech mark. So those are three rules for this example where the speaker is first and the speech second. Here's another example where the speech is first and the speaker last. "That was a mean trick," he exclaimed. "Sorry, couldn't resist it," she apologised. "Don't do that again," he replied. So the rules here, again there are three of them, are A, we put a comma before the last speech mark. However, we replace the comma with a question mark or exclamation mark if it's more appropriate. And the pronoun, unless it's the pronoun I, is never capitalized after speech marks. Now you might be furiously scribbling this down with a pen, thinking I'm going too quickly, but you can get all of this written down in detail in Mr. Bruff's Guide to Grammar, which you can pick up through following the links in the description, so don't panic. Now the final example then is where the speaker splits the speech up. So this is an example. "On second thoughts," he said, "let's go out." And again, there are three rules here. A, with the first half of the speech, you put a comma before the closing speech marks. B, you then introduce the second half of the speech with another comma after the verb. And C, you can see now that there is no capital letter with the second half of the speech when it's continuing the same sentence. So I think this is a good example of how something that seems to be simple, like speech marks, are actually really quite tricky. And if you're using dialogue in an exam piece, for example, a kind of an article, a newspaper article, you've got to be careful to get this range of punctuation that goes with the speech marks correct. So what about if the same speaker talks for more than one paragraph? I always think this is interesting when you're reading a novel. Well, you start each new paragraph with speech marks, but you don't close the speech marks until the person finishes talking. So let me give you an example from Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, which is proving to be a regular sort of text we're using for examples in this grammar series. And if you enjoy these videos, do make sure you subscribe, because every Tuesday we have Grammar Tuesday. So here we can see a little letter from Pride and Prejudice where the speech marks reproduce the exact speech of Elizabeth's sister. "My dear Lizzie, I wish you joy. If you love Mr. Darcy half as well as I do, my dear Wickham, you must be very happy. It is a great comfort to have you so rich, and when you have nothing else to do, I hope you will think of us. I am sure Wickham would like a place at court very much, and I do not think we shall have quite money enough to live upon without some help. Any place would do, of about 300 or 400 a year, but, however, do not speak to Mr. Darcy about it if you would rather not. Yours, etc." And you'll see that each paragraph has its own opening speech mark. Here's one, here's one, and here's one. But the closing speech mark just comes at the end of the speech itself, at the very end. So that's how to use speech marks. As I say, you can use single or double inverted commas. It's, sort of a choice that you can make. But I would suggest, particularly for an exam where it's not going to be too dialogue heavy, that you use double inverted commas. And of course, as always, everything that you see in this video comes from Mr. Bruff's Guide to Grammar, which you can pick up following the links on the description at mrbruff.com or on Amazon. And if you're interested in grammar, do follow Mrs. Spag on Twitter, who tweets lots of interesting things on pretty much a daily basis on spelling, punctuation and grammar. So really worth following Mrs. Spag.